All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Offbeat POV with me, Chin, and my co-host, Professor Nick. Nick, we hope you're having a lovely day today. Listen, if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, do so, Offbeat POV. We're also on Rumble, if Rumble is where you hang out, and our socials, Instagram and TikTok. Find us there if you hang out in those spaces. Okay, today we're going to discuss a rather serious topic. By the sounds of it. I mean, I don't know why he's laughing. It is actually rather serious.
It is serious.
It's an interesting question.
It's a weird question.
A weird question, apparently. And the question that we're dealing with on today's episode is: what measures, if any, should the church be taking to protect its members or its young people? Mm-hmm. Now, Nick, what brought you to this question?
So I came across a documentary or a clip on video that's been released recently about the Seventh-day Adventist Church, believe it or not, where some people in this video were obviously professing that the title of the video was obviously the SDA fails to protect its young children or something like that. Yeah. And we know of all the allegations or things that come out when we're talking about like the Catholic Church and things like that. It's almost a joke in the society about priests and meddling with children and whatnot. So I thought this would be an interesting question to discuss, to be honest with you, because there are so many things that are involved in this question, right? Okay. And the conclusion of it would depend on basically on the path that we're going to take in tackling this question. All right. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Here's where I want us to start. Okay. So like you said, the question is, what measures should churches or religious bodies put in place to protect young children in the congregation? Right. I don't want to use fancy words like oxymoron and things like that.
Oxymoron? Okay, how would you use oxymoron in this context?
I wouldn't. It was just the only word that was on top of my head. Carry on. I said that I don't want to use fancy words.
It's fine. Carry on.
But here's what I was thinking, and here's where I want us to start. Right? Is it right in the first place that we are having to ask, what should we put in church to protect children?
Is it right?
Is it right in the first place that we are having to discuss that? Because the reality is that we are discussing it.
Yeah, okay.
Because
I think I understand your question.
Yeah.
And if the question is it right? I guess the answer is no. But is it right? Yes. if you understand what I'm saying.
I get you. I get what you're saying. So take me both routes.
Yeah. So if I understand your question, you're saying, is it right that as a church we're having to consider the fact that there are adults who may harm young people? Is that right? No, because not only as a church, but as humans, adults should not be harming young people, especially in the church. Adults who believe, who profess to know not only better, but to know Jesus and the creator of the universe. 100%. No, we should not be. This conversation should not be happening in church. But the fact of the matter is, these things do happen, and therefore, is it prudent, is it wise, and is it right that we having this kind of conversation? Yes, 100%.
Okay, so what I was thinking is that, literally from what you've just said, if we're going to talk about a safe haven, it doesn't get any better than a church, in terms of protecting, let's say, the youth, because everything that, let's say, the Christian faith professors, you wouldn't think you would have predators in there. Let me call them predators for now. There's another word we can use for them, but for now, let me go on the aggressive side and say we shouldn't have predators within the church community.
What's the less aggressive word?
I'll get to the less aggressive word later. Let's stick with predators for now.
Fine,
okay.
Fine.
So that's why the question is coming, because it seems worrying to me that in a place that should be heaven on earth, we are finding ourselves with things in there that now we're having to worry about. Like I'm talking about, in certain communities where you can be like, oh, you know what? You take the child, you leave them at church with the priest or with the deaconess or whatever. that's the safest place you can ever leave them. Yeah. But in nowadays society, obviously the documentary was going back to the 80s, I think it was. But we know that it's a thing that has been for the longest time. So I can't say in nowadays society is something where you're gonna be like, oh, let me take my child to the church. They will look after. Oh no, maybe perhaps not. You know, because now you are worried. It's no longer that safe haven. So the follow-on question to that is that then what does that mean for our churches then? What does that mean for our congregation? What does that mean for our deacons, for our pastors? You know, can we even still call it a church then? Like, how do we?
Why wouldn't we be able to call it a church?
Okay, maybe that was a bit too far, but my point is, right? Doesn't the fact that it's no longer a safe place because that's where God is, doesn't that devalue the church itself?
Do you think?
Doesn't that cast a demon on that particular body and all its members? Because that should be where Christ is. Okay, let me take you back, for example, in the olden days when Moses was around and there was that glory that was shining on top of the tabernacle. You know, that's where God was. If ever there was a place to be safe, would be the closest you are to that, the safer you are. Unless if God is angry against you, then the further you are, the safest you are, right? So now it's almost like, well, instead of taking our children and believing that they are in the presence of God, you know, they are within the glory of God, now it's like we can't say both, can we? We can't say that they are, yet we are worried about this brethren in that brethren, or worried about them experiencing this. Well, I don't think the two can exist, can they?
Why not?
How can you say that you're in the presence of God at the same time this presence of God is not safe for my child? Because we're not looking at a specific individual. Because at the moment we don't know who is. We're assuming that, let's say, we don't know who we can trust or can't trust.
Okay,
then that becomes a very dodgy presence of God.
I don't understand your maths.
Okay.
In this case.
Okay.
Okay. So we're talking about measures, yeah. Because these stories have come out, are coming out, and will probably continue to come out. You know, at least for the next foreseeable future, while measures are being taken. So that's a fact. So that's not something that we can run away from, right? What's also a fact is that millions of people have found the church to be a place of refuge, a place of healing, a place of family, community, spiritual upbringing, all those things. Yeah, that's also a fact. So we've got two contending facts that we have to deal with here.
Exactly. So that's what I want us to do. So essentially,
the church is a fantastic place to bring up young children. 100%. Not only do they learn obedience to God, but also obedience to parents, to authority, to other adults in general. They learn structure, they learn skills if you're part of the extracurricular clubs and everything else. So 100%, the church is a fantastic place to raise children. But what parents and other people need to understand is that there can be rotten people in those environments. It's not to say every single adult there has the potential to do it, but we understand that even in such environments, there can be rotten people. And therefore, what are the sensible common sense approaches we can take to ensure that because this is the thing, it's a question of if. It's not a guarantee, it's not a certainty.
Well, hold on, you've just called them facts before.
The fact is that it does happen. Exactly. No, not that it will happen. It's not a fact that it will happen, but the fact is that it has happened. And
it's happening, and it will continue to happen. I think we can safely conclude that. Well, we don't know when or where or who, but we know it's going to happen.
Yes, but it's not every single church and every single gathering where this thing is happening.
How do we know?
Well, I mean, I think I can confidently say that. To say that it's not every single church.
What's making you say confidently say that?
Well, because if there was, I think we'd have a lot more. We have a lot more reports in regards regards to it.
Both you and I know that not everything makes it to the news articles.
No,
especially in the local. Because what we've got to remember
about news article. I'm talking about just reports in general, either to safeguarding bodies or to social work or to the police or anything like that. And
but you've got to remember as well that most times.
So this another thing that crossed my mind while you were speaking, because I think this is the issue that a lot of people will have when they hear about things like this happening. Not only believers but non-believers as well. They will cast a wide shadow over the whole thing because these things are happening. Therefore, this whole thing must be rotten. Therefore, this whole thing must be.
I wouldn't say that this whole thing must be rotten, but I would say that there's justifiable cause to question this whole thing. There's justifiable cause to be concerned about this whole thing, simply because we don't know where or how it's gonna come.
How many? Okay, I'm not gonna ask, but we've had loads of reports about teachers either being inappropriate with students, being mean to students, in some cases even bullying students, right? Can we say as a result, let's throw away education altogether?
No, we're not throwing away education, but my answer is no.
I'm going to the extreme to answer your point. So my point
my answer is no, but
so my point
you can't question all teachers now. You can change where now it's no longer you're now being proactive in making sure that teachers are not like I think a better example would be police officers, to be fair. You know, we in the sense that we police force as a whole, great people doing a great job, difficult job. We know they're having to do with a lot of stuff. We have had a few rotten people that have abused their power in so many different ways. As the result, now eyes are cast on the police a bit more stricter, just to make sure that those rotten weeds are caught quickly before damage is done. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. That so yeah, just because of those rotten people that have come out, you can't look at the whole religious thing a bit more strict and be like, hold on, what's going on? You can't question the whole thing.
That's fine, but that makes my point for me, because we're not looking at the police force and say get rid of the police altogether. All police are corrupt, all police are pedophiles, all police are racist. Get rid of them altogether. And I know that some people who say such stupid stuff, and anyone who says such stupid stuff, I would like you to have a burglar in your house and then tell me if you're not going to call the police, right?
So can you imagine daddy? Hello. 999 is close today.
Honestly, I mean, some people just don't think beyond their nose. It's ridiculous.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, so I think so I think the police is a good example, because we do have an institution which, with investigation, some people have said actually it's not just one rotten apple. In fact, there may be a basket full of rotten apples, right?
Yes.
Now, even in that situation, we're not saying because there's a basket full of rotten apples, let's throw away the basket. Let's throw away the basket and let's start again. I think that's a silly thing to suggest.
Well, hold on. So you're saying that even if everything in that basket was rotten, you'd still not throw out the basket?
If the basket we're talking about is the whole police force, then no, I wouldn't. Because if the basket is rotten, then we need to look at how do we save this basket? How do we turn this basket of rotten apples into good apples?
So essentially, okay, I agree with that. So instead of saying throw it away, someone might say throw it away in the sense of we need a new police force, not necessarily saying that we don't need any police force. So they might be saying that this basket is rotten, we need to throw it away, as in we need a new police force that's not rotten. The same thing you are articulating by saying that, okay, how do we turn these rotten basket into good basket? So you might be looking at like new trainings, reform, more strict measures to make sure that police don't have free reign to do a lot of stuff. So you are looking at all that to turn into a good,
give them more freedom, but that's a discussion.
So you're looking at that to turn them into a good basket. The same analogy someone is going to express by saying throw the basket away, get new ones in, which we have heard that sometimes you do need fresh blood in order to get rid of a certain culture. So I think it's the same thing.
I mean, when it comes to the police, I don't think so, but that would take us down a conversation of the police.
Okay,
because I get recruiting new people, yes, whatever, but what, you're just going to have a whole police force with 20-year-olds?
What's wrong with
how
that?
effective do you think? How effective do you think that would be?
If the 20 years have been trained properly, that would be very effective.
Please.
They're younger, they're fitter, they're quicker, they're more driven for, you know,
and they have no idea what actual policing actually entails.
They will
a police officer who's been a police officer from 22 and is now 62, I guarantee you knows a lot more about policing than someone
that's
who's
granted. We're talking about experience. I can't.
Yeah, that's my point. Is that
but
matters.
If this person is a pedophile,
back to the point.
Then we don't need the 62 years worth of experience. They might as well go. We're talking about the church.
Yeah. We'll talk about the police another time. Let's put a pin on that. I'm not condoning pedophiles or anything else like that, but
you're just saying it's not as simple as that.
If we want an effective police force, I don't think it's as simple as that. But okay. But back to the church thing, right? So the point I'm making is that these people that come out to say that, you know, we find out they've been abusing people and stuff like that, I'm saying these are the rotten apples, right? The reason I'm saying these are the rotten apples is because evidence shows us that for the majority of people, church still remains a safe haven. It remains a place where people go to not only get spiritually healed, some people physically healed, etc., 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 etc. Now, once we understand that they are rotten apples in the church, which, to be honest with you, it's not something that should catch us off guard, because we know just because
not everybody that says Lord,
not even that, but just because you're in the church, it doesn't mean you're all of a sudden an angel.
Not everyone that says Lord.
No, because I'm leaving room that you could, as far as your psyche allows you, you could genuinely believe everything that you're saying, everything that you're professing. You could genuinely believe that, but still do this horrible thing.
Okay, that's what I wanted. Okay, fine. So let's dwell on that a little bit, right? So what are you saying of that individual? So
in terms of
this, right? The reason why I was saying that I'll use predator for now, and there's a lesser word than predator, was to allow room for that. But then I don't know if that's a thing or not, or rather I don't know how much rope we can throw, in the sense that because we're not just talking about believers per se, we're talking about people in positions of leadership.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing. If we're talking about safeguarding, we're talking about all believers.
Fine, but in the examples we have,
the stories that come out are pastors, leaders.
Exactly. So we can't neglect that.
No, of course not. No.
So
that makes it more pertinent.
Exactly. So the reason why I'm saying that is because there is another aspect where we can say that, okay, this is a brethren. This is someone who believes God. This is someone who believes the message, is a convert by all measures, and are struggling with this particular sin of abusing little boys. Is that something we can discuss? Is that on the table?
And
that's what I was saying, that how much rope do we throw? Because we're not judges and executioners or whatever, right? We're just having a discussion here. You know, just like somebody can be a believer and struggle with, I don't know, maybe lying, for example, because that's something that a lot of people overlook. Yeah. You know, you say a quick lie, you know, you overslept on purpose. You are late at work, your manager is like, what's going on? Oh, my wife wasn't well, I had to quickly do something. You know, that's a lie. You just wanted to avoid a conversation of I overslept or something like that. Yeah. So we really do overlook lying. But you can be a believer who occasionally lies or is struggling with lying. You know, and amongst other sins as well that you might be struggling with, that you know that you need to stop, or the Spirit is still working with you to stop. Is that something we can leave room for in talking about these particular people?
I think it would all depend on the context, but my initial answer would be it has to be yes. It has to be yes in terms of the struggle, not the actions. But in terms of the struggle, it has to be yes. But I think for it to qualify for me as a struggle, as you know, I'm saved, I believe, but this is something I struggle with. It perhaps has to be maybe professed to either a pastor or an elder or something.
But we're talking about children here, though.
Yeah.
Often of the same sex as well.
in me saying that, I'm not lessening the act.
I know.
of abuse.
I'm just trying to put it on the table so that we don't forget what we're discussing here.
No. Okay, look. So there are certain things that I would happily kill people over. Right?
Wow.
And that is
kill anybody.
and that is one of the things. However, if I'm not in that situation and I take a step back, I have to acknowledge that all sin is sin.
Yeah.
All sin is sin.
Yes.
So if I'm talking about someone who struggles with lust, for example, let's say, you know what, I believe I received the message, but Ed, this lust demon kills me. Even if I'm in church, sometimes I'm chilling, minding my own business. I just, a lady, I don't even see, I just smell her already. I'm like, you know, like. Can I acknowledge that as a genuine struggle that a Christian is having? Yes. So then why can I not acknowledge that struggle as someone that's having, you know what, I'm saved, I'm whatever, but I have this demon that tempts me to want to abuse little kids. Why can I not?
Because that sounds heavy.
It does sound heavy. And like I said, I wouldn't kill anyone over lusting, but I would probably kill someone over that. But
can you just add that figuratively speaking?
Oh no, literally.
No, we're on air.
Okay, you have to understand, right? You have to understand that if anybody ever messes with me and mines, I'm telling you, I will not be held responsible for what I do.
Okay, we're gonna have to cut this.
I have thought about it.
We're living in a very sensitive world.
No.
Okay.
No. The solution is simple. Just don't touch me and mine. It's as simple as that. Oh, you literally have nothing. You have nothing to worry about if you leave me and mine alone.
Do you understand how much the world would break if Andrew Tate was to say something like this, or Tom Robinson was to say something like this?
That's their problem. That's not my problem. Listen,
the internet will be set on fire.
Listen, they have absolutely nothing to worry about from me as long as you leave me and mine alone. Other than that, I mean, I'm not a pacifist, but there are very few causes that will make me raise this one. You know me. I look at everything. I watch everything. I watch everything and I comment on everything. I don't get involved in causes.
Oh,
but
okay.
Honestly, it's
go on, make your point.
No, it boils my blood. Honestly, it boils my blood. It boils my blood. Anyway, forget on that. Okay, failing that. Going back to it. But having said that, I don't think the ones that we hear about qualify for that. Because these kind of predators, like you call them, which I think is a good word,
right?
They use their positions of power as disguises in order for them to actually do what they do.
What they want to do.
So for them, it's not something that they're struggling with or trying to overcome or anything. It's something that most of them are probably realize, oh, you know what? If I'm a pastor, I can get a bunch of boys with me at the weekend. You know,
they're the P. Diddy's of the church.
Exactly. You know, parents will happily send them to me because I'm a pastor. They trust me, whatever. So I don't think anyone who displays predatory behaviors, I don't think falls into what I'm saying. Those are 100% predators.
Or do you think power can corrupt as well? They might have had those feelings and whatnot, maybe practiced here and there, and then got promoted as a pastor and then realized the power that they have. And then that same conversation we had, you know, if you give man freedom to do what they want to do, he will show you his true nature.
That's a good point. Yeah, no, that's a very good point, because maybe they're exactly like that when they were just a nobody in the church, but then nobody was leaving their kids with them because who's leaving their kids with a strange man? But the pastor of the church now, then that's fair enough. But then again, it goes back to revealing your true colors. It's I don't think the same power corrupts. Listen, it's been added through generations. I've accepted it as a truth. I can't testify to it because I guess all the power I've had has not been enough to corrupt yet. Maybe.
How do you know?
I don't know.
How do you know?
I haven't corrupted yet.
Do you remember when you banned me from having your soup in your household soup?
My soup?
Household soup. You will never have soup in this house again. That was an exercise of power.
No, that's principle. You go into someone's house, you mock their soup.
I did not go into your house and mock your soup. I mocked you and your wife talking about how much soup would bang. I didn't mock your soup.
Anyway.
So here's what I want us to do now. Okay, fine. The reason why I wanted us to start there is just to highlight the absurdity of the situation where a place that should be a sanctuary for us, we have to now unfortunately face the reality of the fact that there might be some people in there who have ill intentions, whether it's through struggle or whether they're just chameleons or whether they just hide goats in sheep's clothing, whatever it is. But unfortunately, we are where we are, where we have to worry about that. Yeah, it's sad, to be fair with you. I think it's something that should break our hearts if we profess that, let's say, for example, the Christendom is the true religion, because like I said, it should be something that especially those in leaders, even if you read in the Bible like Timothy and so on and so forth, there's a heavier weight is cast on a leader.
100%.
You know, although in fact, even when you talk about the rewards, I think they're, again, I don't understand how these rewards are going to be distributed, but they have a higher reward for the work that they did, you know, or for the fact that God used them as workmanship in the field, right? So fine. So we've accepted that. Unfortunately, it's a reality. Unfortunately, it is what it is. We can't do anything about it. So how do we then practically put measures in place? Because the only thing I can think of is to say, you know what, then don't leave your child with anybody at church. But then if that's the case, then doesn't that somehow then take away from that sense of community? Sense of togetherness, sense of when I'm here, I'm amongst my own. You know, you remember back in the days, we'd go to Cornerstone, for example. The minute you enter the doors, nobody cared where you were, because you were in the safe environment. The minute you leave, we even forgot our little sister one day. That's how safe the environment was.
Yeah, and I think that should still be the spirit that most churches not only aim to instill, but that they actually practice. And in most cases, I think most churches probably still feel like that.
But then how do you then do that little bit of the safeguarding there?
Well, I mean, it's just I think it's about applying common sense approaches, isn't it? So for example, if we talk about like in a church, there will be people in churches that you know and have known and trust. And usually also another thing on the point, usually this abuse isn't usually happening in the church, like or on a Saturday or on a Sunday during service or anything like that. It's usually not in those environments. It's usually in extra
midweek and things like that.
Environment.
I've gone to church for a Bible reading, so let's not let our children go to church.
No. But
I want us to be specific.
Yes,
like,
yes.
What are we
so
saying?
for example, one of the examples that the documentary you're talking about gave
they went on a day trip.
They went on a day trip,
not day trip, overnight trip.
Or an overnight thing, right?
I think it was 4 days or something.
So
like
if it's something like that, I'm not saying don't let your kids go on overnight trips with your church or anything. But if they are going, then I think something common sense would just be make sure you have like 3 or 4 adults present. So it's not just kids with 1 adult, but you have 3 or 4 adults on this trip, because then at least there is a accountability amongst the adults to say that, okay, you know what, there is more than 1 adult watching these kids, and if anything is to happen or whatnot, at least there's adults there to monitor it, to pick it up and whatnot. And I wouldn't want to go into thinking, oh no, what if those 4 adults are in on it together, whatever. Because I think as Christians, we have to be prudent, we have to be wise, but I think we have to maintain the spirit of innocence.
Isn't that in a way like trying to say pretend? Well, what if it's a genuine concern that there are 4 adults here, but don't trust any of these 4 adults?
Listen, if you have a genuine concern of those 4 adults, why are those 4 adults going on the thing? Or we're talking about because 9 times out of 10, usually the adults there's nothing wrong with the adults in terms of concerns or anything. If there are any legitimate concerns, then they shouldn't even be on that trip to begin with. No, not even like, oh, you know what, Pastor Leroy is a bit weird, so therefore let's give him 3 others. No, Pastor Leroy is not going.
Like, so how are we addressing that, Pastor? We know this is your trip, we know this was your idea, but we don't want you to go. And I'm guessing if that's the case, you are talking to them anyway before the trip.
Who?
The Pastor Leroy, because if you are having such concerns, shouldn't you be addressing that anyway?
100%, yeah. And so practically speaking, right? Because you're asking about practical steps, yeah. So practically speaking, I think it's the common sense approach. So, for example, if I don't know, I haven't been in a church setting like that in a long time because I'm not young anymore. But I don't know what overnight events kids would have to be with. To be
fair with you, we never had, unless if it's like group camping.
Where I'm thinking any overnight events where parents are not present, but maybe like if you're part of like Pathfinders or something, or like a youth club or whatnot, that can happen. But those kind of things, like I said, having multiple adults is a significant safeguarding. Already, because unless all the adults are corrupt, that already puts a massive safeguard in place. And then just not leaving your children with people you don't know in church very well. So for example, if someone has been coming to church for 2 or 3 months, you don't really know, you haven't been to their house, you don't know their family, you don't know their story, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, you know what, we're taking our children to the cinema, do you want your children to come with us? It's very easy to be like, oh yeah. So especially if
they're very welcoming and the children are friends and they look the nicest.
That's absolutely fine, but I think as a parent, you have to take the due measure to actually get to know these people. So before you leave your children with them, why don't you get to know them? Why don't you go to their house, sit down, have meals with them, go, you get to know them before, and then say, okay, you know what, fine, I know you as a person now, I can now trust you with my child. Because if you're just a parent trusting, oh yeah, you've been in church 2 months, okay, yeah, take my child, then I think it's a bit weird on the parent. But then also another thing I think is that as parents, we need to start. I say we. They need to start talking to their
prophesy.
They need to start talking to their children and asking about their children's days and experiences and stuff. Right? Your child has been gone 5 days or on a Pathfinder adventure. For those people that don't know what Pathfinders is, it's like a church youth club.
It's a
Girl Scout. Cadet. Yeah, it's like cadets or Girl Scouts for the church, or Boy Scouts for the church.
They wear uniforms in March.
Yeah.
And then put a flag out.
Yes. So your child has been away for, they're usually day events. Let's say they went in the morning at 9 and they came back at 6. Ask your child what they did. Tell me about your day. What did you do? So and just as the habit, not as the oh, did you get abused today? Tell me about it, right? But
did someone touch you today? Yeah.
But if you feed it into the habit as to when your child comes back, if you're out of your presence, if your child is out of your presence, yeah, and they come back and you ask them about what they did, how the day was, whatever, I think that is a great measure or a great safeguarding in that if anything weird happens, your child is gonna mention it. But even it doesn't, because usually these things start off slow.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
So even if something that the child perceives as benign, as innocent happens, and they return it to you, be like, that sounds a bit weird to me, right? And then maybe you can.
Pastor Leroy did what?
Yeah, but again, it's those conversations that you're having with your children. Will it mean that there will never be a bad apple that will do something bad in a church? I don't think so. And to be honest with you, the unfortunate reality is, I don't know if we can 100% eradicate that, because we don't know people's hearts. Right? There could be a great man of God who has an otherwise spotless, blameless record, and then we found out that he did this thing in whatever year to this little girl or this little boy, whatever. What are you going to do about that? You know, some of the things just be like, you know what, judgment belongs to God ultimately. But can we do the common sense approaches in terms of safeguarding? Hey, if we need to look at how the world does safeguarding to have some tips, let's do that if we need to. But ultimately, I feel like I've spoken for way too long. But ultimately, I think the greatest safeguard is to
pray and fast.
No. I mean, that's a good start as well. But is to select leaders based on biblical requirements. And I think the issue is nowadays people study to be leaders, or learn to be
it's a profession now,
or it's a career. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a pastor, I'm gonna be an elder. Elders don't get paid. but I'm going to be a pastor, I'm going to be a bishop. So it's a career, but that's not what the biblical leaders should be. It shouldn't be a career, it should be a calling. And there are a lot of great leaders that are just wasting away on seats because they didn't study or they didn't take the right course or whatever. But
they don't have a theology degree, and thus they can't do this, they can't do that. I mean, it's very, like I said, I want to say it's sad that we have to discuss this in the first place. But it is a reality of the times that we're living in. It has been for a very long time. And what I want to add is the fact that I like when we discuss something and then make it practical, because there's gonna be some people going to church on Sundays, Saturdays, Fridays. People are in church groups and whatnot. The point of having this kind of discussion, especially going back to the documentary or the video, it often, these things are coming out 20, 30, 40 years later, 5 years later, 6 years later, then you're finding out that your little one was mishandled and things like that. And at that point, it's literally heartbroken, but you can't do anything. Even if you want to go guns blazing, the person has probably moved on or whatnot, you can't find them, and all you are left is with your broken heart in your hands.
You can't move on from death. Death will find you.
so they
I will find you.
Don't listen to Chin today. He's on a mad one. My name is taken now. But yeah, so we want to make sure that without discouraging people, because another thing I want to quickly touch on to get your opinion on the matter, because it is a fact. We get people saying that I don't believe in God because so and so happens, and often it's about the sins of the people that proclaim to be believers. Now, whereas those can be easy answers. Oh, I don't believe in because also, he's got anger. He goes to church every day, but he's got anger issues, Oh, but he gets drunk every single day. Okay, fine. We can walk those muddy waters. But when it comes to something like this, it is so serious in the sense that it is understandable where someone can say that, how can a pastor of a church I was attending do that to my little boy? You see what I mean? And I do believe that would shut somebody down, So okay, so what I wanted to say is that the importance of these conversations, especially when you look at them practically, is one, to realize that people are people, even within the golden goose, like what we were talking about. There'll always be bad apples. It could be that people don't belong. It could be people that are struggling. Whatever the case is, what we are saying is that it's not acceptable. It's not okay. Yeah, it's not justifiable. But unfortunately, it means that we need to put certain measures in place. So what would be your response then to someone? Let's make it let's dramatize it a little bit. I've got my little boy. I've gone to church. I've been fortunate enough to find out, let's say a month or two after, shut my doors. I ain't never going to that church again. God doesn't exist. What are we saying to that kind of individual?
I mean, first and foremost, I would say I understand the human reaction to what's happened, and especially, I mean, as a parent, I would just give you props that you actually haven't gone and done anything outrageous. Okay. I think that in itself is a sign that you're a better person than I. But I think ultimately, unfortunately, the answer will always will go back to one that you've heard before.
Yeah.
Which is, unfortunately, you're not serving the man, you're serving the master.
Yeah.
So if the servant has proved to be a bad servant to the master,
it doesn't make the master a bad master.
The master remains the master. It just means this has been a very bad servant. The servant has misrepresented.
But then why has the master allowed it to happen?
Well, I mean, this sort of feeds into the conversation we had about why bad things happen. And again, it depends where this person is on their journey, but ultimately, everything happens for the purpose of God. What that purpose is, I don't know. Maybe we don't know yet. Maybe it's yet to be revealed. Maybe we'll never know. And it's one of those things that I think in the moment it's an answer that sometimes doesn't feel satisfactory. But
of course it does, because there are a lot of emotions flying.
Yeah, but if it's something you understand beforehand, then I think it helps you deal with things when you're in the situation. And unfortunately, I don't think any human can answer the question as to, okay, but why did the master allow it to happen? You have to speak to the master about that. If you want an answer, only the master can give you that answer.
And the master does give the answer.
The master can definitely give an answer, especially if that's his plan. And if your heart is burning out of your chest, maybe that was the plan, that it leads you to your knees, and through your knees you get a few revelations. I think another thing I did want to add though is, aside from what people can do in the church, parents and whatever, I think also bodies that represent churches or religious bodies have to take allegations seriously. Because another thing that annoyed me about this story is that a few complaints had been lodged against the pastor over many years in different countries. That it makes that's clear cut. I mean, I can understand a few allegations from one church. You can say, okay, maybe people misunderstood, or maybe people just banded together to lie about me. I can get that. But different churches, different country, similar allegations. I'm sorry,
nothing has been done.
That's so. I think a lot of these things can be avoided if people just take decisive action.
It's one thing to say to people, "You never said anything. How could we know?" But where people have spoken and then you've ignored them, it's like, what more do you want people to do?
And the thing is, when it comes to the protection of children, right, especially in this context, I understand, the burden of proof and evidence and whatnot. But I think where you have 2 or 3 testimonies that agree, I'm sorry, at least that should be sufficient.
At least put a measure in place. At least just say,
put a measure in place, right?
At least just say that this pastor, okay, no more day trips, no more this.
Preach your sermon,
go home.
That's fine. Maybe there's no proof to remove you from the pulpit, or okay,
but it should be enough for people to be like, no. Let's not take the chance.
Exactly. And to be honest with you, from hearing this story, I think the majority of the failing was down to the church
bodies,
from failing to act on the complaints that they received. And of course, that can go into a further conversation about, well, were they protecting the pastor, or was it just a matter of there wasn't enough evidence, or blah blah blah. You can have those conversations unless you dig into it. I guess we'll never know. But I'm not going to dig into it because it's not my journey at the moment. But yeah, I think as a body, because even the Bible says that you can't convict someone unless you have a witness of at least 2 witnesses.
Or more witnesses.
And for me, I think if you have 2 or 3 similar complaints, especially from completely different places,
it's enough.
I think that's enough to establish
an investigation.
100%. So yeah, it is unfortunate. It is very unfortunate. But one thing that I'm hearing a lot of stories like this coming out, right? And when you go back in history, you see that there's been a lot of stories like this, especially where powerful men are always preying on little boys. And then he reminded me of something that Candace Owens said, to say that apparently Hollywood and that whole thing was built around protecting pedophiles. And she was talking about how everyone in Hollywood is gay, and it's all about protecting pedophiles and gay people and stuff like that.
We know how she's like when she goes on a rant.
I know Mr. Candace Owens, she says a lot. And when I first heard it, I was like, okay, it's a bit stretchy. But it is sort of weird as to how a lot of men, powerful men, do seem to prey on boys.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's better either boys or girls, but at least with girls you can be like, well, okay, fine,
just a little young.
But not okay, fine, as in it's better. But
exactly.
But it's like, actually, maybe,
it makes you think that
maybe there is
more
something about the spirit of homosexuality that again, I've recently come to understand that it's always been. In fact, I would go as far back as to say maybe even one of the first few humans is probably the first time we saw homosexuality or gays.
There are pictures that have always baffled me when we look at certain pictures of certain saints or gods in I don't want to say Greek mythology, but those pictures where you have a portrayed god like naked, covered, and then there will be like a baby looking someone at the bottom, and then they're touching fingers. That you've never seen those pictures.
No, I mean,
it's always like trying to like touch or whatnot. They do that to me as a bit weird. Like, of course, it's never just babies. Of course, they can be like fully grown human and things like that. But those ones, especially, have always been very weird to me. I've always been like, what is going on there?
I think recently I am awakening to the fact that I think this spirit of homosexuality is definitely one that probably infects a lot of people.
Infects the society.
Yeah.
And this is why it's used as the measurement of fallen state at its highest. Because it happens, it's there happening, but then when you start seeing it open like that, it's like, anyway, we'll go off on another tangent on that. I was gonna go back to Hollywood like you said. But yes, so your closing remarks on the matter.
So my closing remarks, if I should have any, first and foremost, I do want to agree with you that this really shouldn't be a conversation within the church. You know, it should be that these things are happening when maybe we're seeing the Weinsteins and the PDD and whatnot, and we're saying, you know what, praise God for the church,
we're in the church.
At least there's a safe haven. And I still believe to a large extent that is the case, right? However, having said that, I think it's not naive, or rather, I wouldn't want to be naive and assume that everyone who is in a church in a position of authority is 100% clean. I think 99.9 are, but then it is that 0.1% who unfortunately cause damage to kids. Because even if it's just one kid in a village, that's still a family. That's still a family that's affected, and the wider family and the wider society as well. So because of that, I think my message to churches would be, do your basic due diligence. So for example, I think anyone in a position of power in a church should have a DBS, a clean DBS record. Maybe not clean, but at least a disclosed one. Especially nothing to do with any issues to do with children. Obviously, you can have like a violent past or whatever. That's what the church is for, right? You know, you can have a past of drugs and whatever, etc., etc. You can have a criminal past. I don't think that's an issue because the church is there for the broken.
You just can't have a criminal past involving children.
You can, but if you do, I think it has to be declared, and as a result, certain measures have to take place
to protect both you and the
So for example, let's say you're great at working with kids, but let's say there's a misunderstanding. Yeah, maybe you were working with the youth in the sector, and a young girl came up to you and hugged you, and maybe someone saw that as well and reported you, and even if it was a misunderstanding, at least we know you're great with kids. Okay, whenever you're running a kids section, we'll have sister so-and-so in with you, or we'll have brother so-and-so with you. Just sitting on the class and to watch. Fine. Because you're happy, you get to keep teaching kids. They're happy because they know everything is okay, right? So I still think a common sense approach can apply, right? Secondly, parents, if you're leaving your kids with adults, make sure that adults that you know and trust with your life. Because if you don't trust them with your life, why are you trusting them with your kid's life? Right? And I think that's the point. Make sure that people you know and trust with your life. Because there are some people that I trust with my life, and I'll be like, here, have my kid. Like, that's not even a concern to me, right? But then there are some people where I'll be like, okay, have my kid. But then every hour I'm like calling, I'm like,
what's my kid doing right now? Keep breathing.
So I think I'm not. Leave your kids with people that you trust, right? And that's not saying that they can never abuse that trust, but at least it's a starting point, right? And finally, to leaders and those in authority and those who are working with kids, don't be idiots. No, honestly, don't be idiots. If you have any intention to do anything damaging to children in those positions, step down now. Just step down now and just leave, because it is
not go seek help.
Step down and go seek help if you want.
Pray, fast.
Step down and start praying. In fact, get yourself out of the situation where you have authority and power over kids. If you have any intentions of causing harm, step down now. Now is your chance. Step down, right? step down. Because honestly, if there's one thing that makes my blood boil, because the kids are the epitome of innocence.
And to be fair with you, I've been thinking about that in recent times, right? In almost in all cultures across the earth, if there's one thing that people can agree with, is the safeguarding of children. It's like you can have people fighting, and then a baby is just there crying, and suddenly everyone's like, oh, like,
at least stop fighting, and they'll move the baby out of the way.
Yeah. And then it's like those people that would then kill the babies, like, how can you kill? And I think this is one of the things that atheists use to attack God in the Old Testament when he said, kill everybody, woman, child, babies alike, kill everybody. And people are like, we understand the man and the woman, how can you kill babies? It baffles me that, because obviously there's just something about little babies that obviously there's just so much brightness and future and life. It's like it presents all that life is, especially that innocent part of it. You saw what I mean? So it baffles me that is weird, to be fair, in a very good way. So I understand why people breed now.
Yeah. So honestly, if you're in a position of power, your job is to protect children, to teach children, protect them, educate them, and turn them into functional members of society who hopefully, hopefully, if they're growing up in the church, ones that can grow up to stand for faith and stand for Christ and stand for the teachings of the Bible, and anything like that. And if you are a full-on predator and you've just sort of like fallen into that lifestyle, because the
full-on predator is going to listen to what you're about to say right now.
A full-on predator could just be staying with his family, minding his own business, listening to with POV. And if that is you,
I feel like if you're on a mad one today.
Okay. No, if that is you, repent, because you are going to end up crossing the wrong person. Anyway,
I think we'll end it there for today.
No, but honestly, if anything like that was ever to happen, only the mercy of God would keep my sword from lifting.
Chin, stop talking.
Okay. No, but what are your final words, sir?
No, I couldn't add to what you said. I'm in total agreement of what you've said. The unfortunate thing is that because it's a recognized problem, because it's happening, unfortunately, we do need to put things in place. It's that simple. I would have loved a world where, there's a clear separation. People of God, the rest of the world. People of God, like what I was saying, as long as you're in the presence of God, everything is groovy. Remember the Acts when he talks about the early Christians, they had all things in common. They were sharing. I think was it a communist society? Because they were bringing everything together.
Sort of.
And you could tell there was complete and utter peace and love being spread around. Obviously, they had their own issues, as we see. Exactly, but unfortunately, it's not that kind of world. So I do agree with 100% of what you said. Now that we've realized that, what can we do? And like you said, common sense is a big part of it. Know the people that you trust in the church, go to their houses, vet them. We can only do our best, if there's something that's not sitting right, then, I would refrain from doing that, because we are trying to protect the innocence of our children, or your neighbor's children, your brother's children, your sister's children, that kind of thing, or children in general. What I would emphasize on, Don, is, if there is somebody in the church that you are concerned about through maybe observations or something that you've seen, then you are addressing that sooner rather than later, because then, like what the Bible says, you could be saving not only an innocent child from experiencing something traumatic, but even that person from eventually committing something atrocious that they will also regret, or unfortunately it will end them in hell. And I'm quoting Paul when he said that, destroy the flesh and maybe the spirit will be saved, something like that. So honestly, if I add, I would just...
Mustafa has always been an enigma to me.
I'm telling you. So literally everything that you've said, that was short and sweet. It is a very important discussion, and I do believe that there are a lot of you that might be listening currently, 2 people, according to our last video, but hopefully a lot more moving forward. that might know somebody or know people, or you yourselves that have got young ones in church and you're concerned and so on and so forth, the Bible says that we should be as something as dove and as wise as serpents. Yeah. So
as innocent as doves.
Sorry?
As wise as serpents and as innocent as doves.
Innocent as stuff. So on the wise part, let's do the wise thing. So we can say that is all from OPOV.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys, and stay offbeat until next week. Bye.